Hey Kingfishers, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Maundy Thursday and Good Friday. Today is Good Friday, but we're going to look at what happened yesterday on Maundy Thursday and what happens today. We've been looking at the Easter story, and now this is Easter week. On Sunday we talked about Palm Sunday when Jesus entered and people were waving their palm leaves and celebrating him. But now things are going to change. The purpose that Jesus came for is going to be fulfilled. And some really big things happen. So on Maundy Thursday, they have the Last Supper. We're going to look at what that is. Jesus goes to pray in the Garden of Gethsemane, and then he gets arrested. Let's get into some of the verses and look at what happens on Maundy Thursday. The Last Supper is a time when Jesus has communion with his disciples. Now, a lot of you have heard this word before in church. Communion is when we come together and we take bread and wine and we remember what Jesus did on the cross. And Jesus does this before he even gets on the cross with his disciples, and they call it the Last Supper. Let's read what it says in Matthew chapter 26, verses 26 to 30. While they were eating, Jesus took some bread and he thanked God for it. And he broke it and gave it to his followers and said, "Take this bread and eat it. This bread is my body." Then Jesus took a cup. He thanked God for it and gave it to his followers. He said, "Every one of you drink it. This is my blood, which begins the new agreement that God makes with his people. This blood is poured out for many to forgive their sins. I tell you this, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine again until the day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." They sang a hymn and then they went to the Mount of Olives. So Jesus says that the bread is his body and the wine is his blood. He's talking about what's going to happen on the cross. And that's why we take communion now, to remember what happened. We take the bread and we break it because Jesus' body was broken on the cross. He died for us on the cross. And we drink the wine as a remembrance that his blood was shed when he died on the cross. And it reminds us that, like Jesus said, there is forgiveness for everybody's sins. He's made it so we can talk to God and we can have a wonderful relationship with him. And we don't have to worry anymore that we have to earn God's love, because God just loves us all the time, no matter what. So Jesus did this with his disciples and he showed them what was going to be the new way of doing things after he was gone. He was showing them that some big things were about to happen. And after they had that last communion, they went off to the Mount of Olives, and Jesus went to go and pray in the Garden of Gethsemane. We've talked before about Jesus. Jesus likes to pray, and he often goes to pray alone. And on this occasion, he went to pray to God because he knew that the next day he was going to die on a cross. Jesus must have been really scared about that. It's such a scary thing to do, to know that you're going to have to die. But he also knew that it was God's will for him. So he goes and prays and talks to God about it. Let's read what he says in the Bible. In Matthew chapter 26, verses 36 to 46, it says this. Then Jesus went with his followers to a place called Gethsemane. He said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He told Peter and two of the sons of Zebedee to come with him. Then Jesus began to be very sad and troubled. He said to Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, "My heart is full of sorrow and is breaking with sadness. Stay here with me and watch." Jesus walked a little further away from them, and he fell on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, do not give me this cup of suffering, but do what you want, not what I want." Then he went back to his followers, but he found them asleep. Jesus said to Peter, "You couldn't stay awake with me for 1 hour? Stay awake and pray for strength against temptation. Your spirit wants to do what is right, but your body is weak." Then Jesus went away for a second time, and he prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this painful thing to be taken away from me, if I must do it, then I pray what you want will be done." Then Jesus went back to his followers, but again they were asleep. Their eyes were so heavy. Jesus left them and went away one more time and prayed. This third time he prayed the same thing. Then Jesus went back and said, "You are still sleeping and resting? My time has come for the Son of Man to be given to sinful people. Get up, we must go. Here comes the man who has turned against me." So Jesus went to pray in the garden. It was called the Garden of Gethsemane. He went to pray to God to say, "This thing is so scary. I'm going to have to suffer, Lord. Is there any way that you can take it away from me?" But God didn't take it away from him because he knew that Jesus was the only one that could die on the cross to save every person. And so while Jesus was praying, he'd asked his friends, his disciples, Peter and two of the sons of Zebedee, to pray with him, but they just kept falling asleep. They weren't there for him when he really needed them. That's really sad, isn't it? And at the end, after Jesus has been praying to God, he says that now is the time that he's going to have to die on the cross and be given over. And after that he was finished praying the third time, Jesus was arrested. Judas, who was one of his disciples, came and kissed him on the cheek, and that was a sign to all of the army that was around that they should come and arrest Jesus. And they took Jesus away. Next day, on Good Friday, which is today, this is what happened next. Jesus was taken before Pilate, who was the ruler at the time, and Jesus was put on trial. It says in Matthew 27 verses 19 to 26. While Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him a message. Don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus executed. Which of the two men do you want me to release? Said the governor. Barabbas, they answered. What should I do with Jesus then, who is called the Messiah? They all said, Crucify him. What crime has he committed? Asked Pilate the leader. But they all shouted louder, Crucify him. When Pilate saw he was getting nowhere, but that an uproar was starting, he took the water and washed his hands in front of the crowd. I am innocent of this man's blood, he said. It is your responsibility. All the people said, His blood is on us and our children. Then he released a prisoner called Barabbas to them, but he had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. When Jesus was put on trial, all the leaders, all the priests, all the people, instead of releasing Jesus, who was innocent, they asked for a man called Barabbas, who was a terrible prisoner, to be released instead. They wanted Jesus to be put on the cross instead. They wanted to kill him. Can you imagine? Just a few days ago, Jesus came in with palm branches waving, and now everyone wanted to kill him. And he was innocent. But this is what Jesus said would happen, that the people would turn on him. After that happened, Jesus was taken to the cross. This is what it says in Matthew, verses 27, verses 32 to 37. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon. They forced him to carry a cross. They placed on it the name which says, the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine to drink mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes and cast lots on him. And sitting down, they kept watch over him. Above his head, they placed a charge that said, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. They were mocking Jesus when he was on the cross. Imagine how painful it would be to be nailed up onto a cross. And yet the people were mocking him and treating him so badly. And then Jesus died on the cross. It says from verses 45 to 56. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over the land. And about 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me? When some of them standing there heard this, they said, He is calling Elijah. Immediately one of them ran and got a sponge. They filled it with wine vinegar and gave it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, Now leave him alone. Let us see if Elijah comes to save him. Then Jesus cried out in a loud voice and gave up his spirit. And after that, Jesus was put into a tomb, and a big stone was rolled across, and the army just covered it. So we've talked about Maundy Thursday and Good Friday, and a lot happened, didn't it? It started with Jesus having the Last Supper, having that communion with his disciples, and then he went in the garden to pray and to ask God that he wouldn't have to do such a horrible and scary thing. But Jesus knew that this was the right plan from God. And then after that, he was arrested and put on trial, and all the people treated him so poorly. And then he was put on the cross, where he died. And now Jesus is in the tomb. But we know something that they didn't know, that there was going to be a great day coming on Sunday, a wonderful day when Jesus rises from the dead. So over the next few days, why don't you pray to God and just thank him for what he did for you? Thank him that he sent Jesus, who died in such a scary and painful way to make sure that we could have a relationship with God. and keep a smile on your face, because on Sunday we will be celebrating a happy Easter when Jesus rises again. I hope that you have a wonderful Good Friday. Bye!